rest of the nation looks to New Hampshire to vet.
You're always trying to figure out what's important.
Tried and true Ray that makes New Hampshire famous.
I've been reading and watching these things for years on television. Now I'm actually on the ballot.
A presidential campaign leaves little time to just be yourself. So with an eye toward getting to know the real candidates, WMUR gathered undecided voters for a candidate cafe. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh McKelvin. The primary is upon us, and over the last several months, we've gotten to get a pretty good handle on where the candidates stand on the issues. So now the question becomes, what makes them tick as people? What are the personal stories that help shape them into the people that they are today? With the help of the Institute of Politics and St. Anselm College and Granite State voters, we sat down with them to share a meal, to get some personal stories and hear more about their personal sides. And over the next couple of hours, we're going to share those conversations with you. Up first tonight, a man who has built his reputation on being blunt. In fact, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie has never really had a problem speaking his mind. The Republican landed his first elected position after speaking out against a small city project in his family's neighborhood.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you. How are you?
In this campaign, when you see Chris Christie, more often than not, his wife, Mary Pat, is close by.
You know, we've always been a team since we've been married almost 30 years ago, whether it was my career or Chris's career. But I enjoy people, and I've really enjoyed being up here in New Hampshire. Yeah. And it's an easy flight. So. That's the added benefit of being an easy flight.
Yeah, it's good to say at the airport diner. Yeah, and you know, I've spent more days here than any other candidate. And I think Mary Pat has spent more days here than any other candidate other than me. So, I mean, she has been here with me a lot, and we really have approached this as a team from the beginning. And I think you especially have to do that when you have 4 children. The pair have been friends since their late teens, but when the romance started, things happened fast.
We started dating in March, I think, and we're engaged by December of that year, which is kind of crazy. But
yeah, I don't know how either sets of our parents, now as parents, I don't know how their heads didn't just explode.
So this was in college?
In college. I was a senior in college.
And you got engaged in college?
Oh, I'm a year older. So I was in my first year of law school. Okay. And so I was at the end of my first semester of law school, and Mary Pat was at the end of her second to last semester of college. So I didn't have a job. I had a part-time job. I was working in a law firm as a law clerk, and Mary Pat was in college. And I went to her house that Christmas and proposed to her, and then went and spoke to her father. Now, my father-in-law, who's since passed away, is an amazing guy, wonderful guy, Wharton Business School graduate, really smart, really organized. And he looked at me and he said, "And how do you propose to support my daughter?" And I said, "Well, we've talked about it. We'll work it out." He's like, "Doesn't sound like a plan, Chris."
No, Chris Christie didn't come with a silver spoon, and he started working at the age of 15, pumping gas.
You know, I was not a car guy, like, growing up, and my parents weren't big car people. They didn't, you know, they weren't focused on it. So the first day, I didn't know much about cars. The first day, a guy pulls in with a Jaguar. And I walk up, like, "Yeah, can I help you?" And you know, in New Jersey, we're one of only 2 states that has no self-serve gas, right? Yeah. So you can't pump your own gas. Someone pumps it for you. So that was me. So I walk up and I say, "Yeah, can I help you?" And he said, "Yeah, put $10 in each tank." And I was like, "Okay."
And his next job was selling shoes at a local business.
It was a family-owned store. Husband and wife owned the store, and their sons. They had all sons. They had four sons, and they all worked there. And then they'd have 1 or 2 stragglers that worked there outside the family, and I was one of them. The mother, when I came in, she goes, "Now listen, you're the new guy, so one of your jobs every day is to water this plant over here." She said, "So don't ever forget to water the plant. You got to water the plant every day. Don't forget." I said, then you get on to the rest of your job, but water the plant." I'm like, "All right." So I come every day, I fill the thing, I pour water in. I did this for like 10 days of work. And by the 8th or 9th day, like the guys were laughing at me. And I'm like, "Why are you laughing?" "Well, because, you know, you're the new guy and you got to water the plant, and you're a poor guy, you got to water the plant every day." It was an artificial plant. And they wanted to wait to how long it was going to take me to figure out the watering the plant.
Like most things in his life, Christie figured it out. But his foray into politics started at age 30 when the New Jersey version of a county commission planned to widen a road running through his neighborhood.
And I was angry, and I think it showed. And I was like, listen, you know, and I used to talk about that meeting all the time where they basically booted us out and didn't pay any attention to us. And it resonated with a lot of people. And I think for a lot of those folks, they were like, okay, yeah, why not him? You know, the young kid with the big mouth. Let's put him in, you know?
So what happened with the road?
Never got widened. No, let me tell you, I got on there. It was over pretty quickly. That one got right off the. It has never been widened since then. That was 1994.
Christie says the dominant influence in his life was his late mother.
And she was not someone who it was easy for her to express her emotions. And so one of the dearest possessions I have is after I was sworn in as U.S. Attorney in 2002. My mom wrote me a letter. That's the only letter my mom ever wrote me. And she wrote me a letter, and she started off the letter by saying, you know, it frustrates your mother that she can't express her feelings to you as freely as I would like, but that's the way I was raised. And then she said, and that's an old story anyway, and this letter's not about me, it's about you. And she wrote this letter about how proud she was of me and what an amazing moment it was for her to see her son, you know, be given this incredible privilege by the president. And this was right after 9/11, you know, to serve the country in this way. And she ended the letter by saying, you know, even though I don't get to say it as much as I'd like to, you should know that I couldn't have asked for a better son and I couldn't be filled with more pride. And, you know, I keep that letter. It's in the top drawer of my dresser. And every once in a while, you know, I pull it out for two reasons. One, to read it again and to feel that again from her, and it makes her presence more real to me. And secondly, there is something comforting, right, about actually seeing her handwriting. It's something that I think we're missing these days with emails and text messages and all the rest. Like when I see that handwriting, it really makes me feel her. I remember the notes that she would write to school, right? You know, Chris is late today because he's an idiot, you know, and he overslept, you know, or the birthday cards or whatever. Like, that's Mom. Like, I saw that handwriting, and immediately it's like, that's my mother.
It's important for the Christies to keep their own kids grounded in a life that has become very public. And Christie points to the night that he pulled an upset win in the race for New Jersey governor.
And it was after 11 o'clock at night when we finally came downstairs, and it was open bar. So these people were loaded. I mean, they were like, they were drunk, they were happy, they hadn't won anything in 12 years. I mean, so we're backstage and we can hear and feel the crowd. And I said, you know, I got to talk to everybody. So I said to the kids, I said, okay, everybody in a huddle. Let's get in a huddle. And the 6 of us got in a huddle, and I looked at them and I said, listen, we're going to walk out on that stage, and when we do, our life is going to change. And what I want you to remember is two things. It's all temporary. And that the people who are the most important in your life always are the people who are in this circle. Don't ever forget that, because you'll make lots of other friends because of what's going to happen to Dad now. But the most important people in your life are the ones in that circle. And I think our kids have talked about that a number of times when they've gotten interviewed by people. And they said, like, that moment had a big impact on them. And I think that's what we remind ourselves of all the time, that it's temporary, and that enjoy the parts of it that you can enjoy, and tolerate with a smile the things that are more difficult, because you asked for this voluntarily. And so, like, the kids will get upset. Sometimes we'll be out to dinner someplace and lots of people will come up and ask for pictures or whatever, and I said, remember, in Dad's business, when they stop asking for pictures, it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing. So this is good. This is a good sign, you know.
Another candidate known to buck the trend from time to time, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, registered on Capitol Hill as an independent. He's running in the New Hampshire primary, of course, as a Democrat. He admires other unorthodox figures as well, but in a lot of parts of his life, Sanders is as traditional as baseball.
Morning. Good. So why am I the only person wearing a tie here? Something or Josh is though.
Well, that's because only hours earlier, the Democratic candidate for president was doing his day job in the Senate, and it was a late night.
Well, the good news is the United States government is not going to shut down. And we're not going to cause a world financial crisis by not paying our bills. Now, that's not a very high bar, I know. But there we go. That was what 3 o'clock in the morning was about. So,
sure, Sanders is a senator from Vermont, but he is still very much Brooklyn. And he grew up in a neighborhood that was bound by baseball.
You all remember the Brooklyn Dodgers? You're too young. but it was a team that knit the entire borough together. It was a very important part. You know, if you pressed me, I could name you the starting lineup in 1955, probably, or 52. And we learned to do arithmetic. You want to hear it? It's an investigative report. All right. Gil Hodges on first, Junior Gilliam at second, Pee Wee Reese at short, Billy Cox at third, Gina Mansky in left field, Luke Snyder in center field, Carl Furillo in right field, Roy Campanella catching, Preachero, Don Drysdale, and many other great pitching. Now ask me what I did yesterday. I can't quite remember, but.
So how did a kid from Brooklyn end up in Vermont?
Smart guy. The story there is I grew up in Brooklyn, and my parents sent me to Boy Scout camp, and was up in Narrowsburg, New York, and I loved it. I went there, I can't remember, 3 or 4 years, maybe 4 years. Every summer we'd go for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. And it was my first real exposure to the outdoors. And one year when I came back, I really started crying. It was, anyway, I, for whatever reason, really liked being outside, liked hiking, camping. When I was a kid, my brother, older brother, took me to Manhattan, and right near, this is years and years and years ago, near Radio City Music Hall, the state of Vermont had a tourist store there where they, and what we would do is my brother would take me around, we'd take leaflets, you know, we'd pick up everything we could. So I learned about Vermont, and it stayed in my mind. I was a little kid.
Sanders moved to Vermont with his wife right out of college. The pair bought 75 acres of land for the tidy sum of $2,500. But it was the pace of life that Sanders says fit him like a glove.
I moved to Vermont because I like rural life. I really do. And even today, when I go around my state or New Hampshire, when you get into the country, my blood pressure goes down. It's a very different experience. You know, in New York, you know, I was just in New York the other day. You know, just, they come in. So I'm turns out, after all, that I'm kind of a rural guy.
What's your story? Where do you get your passion for social justice?
That is an excellent question, and the honest answer is I really don't know. I can tell you that as a little kid, you know, we all go to school, and I went to public schools. You always have big guys bullying little guys, right? Mm-hmm. And I had an instinctual dislike for that and would stand up for, I was pretty big and strong, and stand up for little guys. Maybe some of it came. I suspect it did. I'm Jewish. And when I was a little kid, my family wasn't particularly political. They voted Democrat, but they weren't political. You know, we learned when I was a little boy in the late 40s about, you know, I was coming of age to understand these things, what happened to my father's family who were killed in the Holocaust. And I think that left a lasting, I remember reading picture books of World War II and tears coming out of my eyes. So I think that left a lasting impression of what evil is about and what oppression is about, what terrible things can happen to human beings.
And it was in his childhood that Sanders formed his opinion of wealth, or lack of it.
But when you're young and you hear your parents arguing, it hits you emotionally, you get scared. And my parents would argue a lot, and most of the arguments ended up being about money. You know, my mother wanted to buy something. Oh, we don't have enough money to do this. No, no, why don't you make more money? You know? And he was, you know, she wanted him to make more money. And I think so growing up in a family that never had a lot of money, and conscious of what that means. I mean, that's what you're talking about. And I think a lot of folks who have money just don't understand. I mean, they're well-intentioned, but they don't know what it means, that maybe you may have trouble putting gas in the car to get to work. That's beyond their comprehension. Or even, you know, worrying about the lights being shut off. But I grew up in a family that, you know, we struggled economically, and that is a lesson I have never, ever, ever forgotten.
What do you do to relax?
Good question. So we got 7 beautiful grandchildren. They are the joy of my life. And there's a little guy, there's no stopping him. His kid never stops. So we were at an event, we had all the media there. And so somebody from European television goes, well, why would your grandfather be a good good president, 4 years old. He says, well, he teaches me how to play baseball.
In this campaign, the low-key grandfather has grown into a national figure, a celebrity he admits that's tough to get used to.
At National Airport, there were like a dozen people taking selfies. This selfie is... And I'm happy to do a selfie. I don't want to... But it is, you know, you know, I'm used to it in Vermont. So, you know, everybody in Vermont knows me. But to be, you know, walking down the streets in Chicago or New York City or Portland, Oregon, and people coming up to you is a little bit strange. A little bit strange. And it means, what it also means is that you have to be on your toes 24 hours a day.
Especially when it comes to the media, a group that Sanders believes often loses sight of the ball.
Dumbest question was, what do I put into my coffee? Well, you just saw it. One cream. One cream. You know, that was, I would say, and I was not very nice to that reporter. You know, I said, hey, we got 1 or 2 crises in America more important than how much cream I put into my coffee. Maybe I was having a bad day, but...
That's not to say Sanders doesn't have humor. He does, and he enjoys the comparison that's often made between himself and the creator of Seinfeld.
I don't know how to say this. I am Larry David. We left Bernie in Washington. He'll be joining us later this evening. But after determining that Larry sounded more like me than I did, we said, all right, Larry, you're the guy.
You know, spouses often play a key role in these campaigns, and every once in a while we'd hear a love story that really showed the softer side of these candidates. Among them, former Florida Governor Jeb Bush. The Republican says for him, it was love at first sight. And yes, he even gets more passionate about his wife than he does about football.
Do you guys play fantasy football?
It didn't take Jeb Bush long to loosen up around this table of voters at the airport diner, and he just started talking about his fantasy football team.
Oh, it's fantastic. If you like football, it's a great way to... It gets you into conflicts, though. If you're... Like, I'm a Dolphin fan, and I started cheering when New England scored right off the bat, because I had Gronk as my tight end. So you kind of get conflicted out, but it's a great way to... I have, like, I think there are 10 people in our league, all family members, and 1 friend.
And the football lingo was just beginning.
My diet would be a 15-yard penalty loss of down. That's what I want to eat.
His envy over the food being brought to the table continued as well.
Woo! Gosh, I'm so jealous. Oh! Bravo! Well, happy birthday! Happy birthday.
As much as the meal made him smile, to really see Jeb Bush light up, just ask him about his wife.
She was Mexican, I was Texan. I was tall, she was short. She was beautiful, I wasn't. So there was, as I said, I'm normally not as just impetuous about something. I mean, it defined my life, truly, meeting my wife. It's been the single biggest driver of whatever success I've had in my life. In her case, I think she was a little more cautious about it. So, but I'm glad, because, you know, these are decisions you don't want to mess up.
Defined his life from the moment he met her. What kind of student were you?
I was, well, that's a good question. There's BC and AC. Before Columba and after Columba. So I met my wife when I was 17. And I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but the love at first sight thing. Has anybody had that? I did. It was like, wow, you did? It's like, I was a skinny, you know, of same height, 6'4". I don't think I was probably 190. I lost 20 pounds in 3 weeks. I couldn't eat. I was like totally, it was like, this girl just turned me upside down and changed my life effectively in 2 years. Summa or magna cum laude. And so BC was before Columba. I was an average student, and AC after Columba. I just wanted to finish as quick as I could to marry her. But she said I was too tall. She's 5 foot tall, and so she couldn't envision living with someone with that height difference. So I just had to wear her out. Finally, it worked.
And so when he was thinking about running for president, her opinion and blessing was a necessity.
She was supportive when I got serious about thinking about it. She told somebody else. She didn't tell me this because you have to have your spouse to be all in, right? It's just, it doesn't.
Consuming.
Yeah, and it's just not fair for your loved ones that you care for if they're not happy in any kind of situation. So the hard decision for me was to make sure that my family was good with this. And she told somebody that not allowing me to run would be like telling a concert violinist that they couldn't play the violin.
These days, his grandchildren also make him smile, and being with them as they grow up is a priority.
I've got 4 grandkids. You're in that league?
Oh, yeah.
It took a while, but once they started coming, they came pretty fast, and they just bring such joy to my life. It is so much fun. I have Sunday fun days. I try to. The last 2 weekends, I've unfortunately couldn't spend all Sunday at home, but tomorrow, next Sunday, I get to do it, and I'll be with my grandkids.
Of course, when it comes to family, his parents are a big part of the person he is today, and he still looks to his mom for guidance.
She's on the Today Show. We're all watching it. It's funny, kind of. She's being funny, and then the very last question is, "What do you think Jeb should do?" And she goes, "I don't think she should run. Too many Clintons, too many Bushes." And I'm going like, "Really, Mom? Couldn't you at least share that with me?" So then she changed her tune about 2 months later, and now she's just back to being a mom with unconditional love, throwing stuff at the television.
And in his family, it's clear who in the hierarchy had the job of identifying and teaching between right and wrong.
Hang out with Barbara Bush for a little bit. It's like you'll get the wrong part quick, and the right part my dad kind of handles. So my kids would spend more than maybe three weeks a month there, and they would come home and they'd immediately look you in the eye and talk to you, and they would shake hands with strangers as adults, and they would say yes sir, no ma'am. Like, we tried. It's like pounding it into them, and we got to do this. And just 3 weeks with my parents, they learn the things that really help you when you're growing up, to show respect for your elders, and it just helps. I've found it helps a lot to be respectful of others.
But there are a lot of stories besides those about his family. Many of them center around his time as governor of Florida.
One of my first emails I got was from a lady, an elderly woman, I think she was like 85, who was, would you like some?
No, I'm just going to move it back.
Who was, oh, I guess I am eating. Thank you. Who was upset that a raccoon was in her attic. And she got my email, and she wanted to know what the hell I was going to do about it. So I sent her an email back saying, I'm on it. And that was like at 10 o'clock at night. And when I went to work the next morning, I think it was Lantana or Delray Beach down in South Florida, I called the city manager and said, this sweet lady just sent me an email, gave me her address, and said she's got a varmint in her attic. And she says, what am I going to do about it? And my question to you is, what are you going to do about it? And he got the animal control people out that day.
He says that was a little easier to solve than some of the other challenges he faced, including when Florida was ravaged by hurricanes, and he visited those affected by the devastation.
She came up and she just hugged me, and she didn't let go. She just wanted to be hugged. And we sat there, cameras all over the place, because they love all this. And for 5 minutes, she just wouldn't let go. So I just hugged her, kind of rubbed her neck, and then she said, and then she finally could talk, and she said, I lost everything. I said, well, what are you doing? She said, well, I'm volunteering for the Salvation Army. I figure that would be the best way for me to overcome what I've lost by helping others. I mean, I have thousands of stories like this. It's just the compelling nature of people. When times are tough, Americans do this. This is who we are.
Pretty serious stuff, so it's not always easy to be lighthearted.
What is it like when your advisors come up to you and say, you know what, be more funny?
Does that answer the question?
Serious, funny, laid back, full of sound bites or not, he is sure of one thing.
I'm who I am, whether you like it or not. I'm not trying to feed you a line here. I'm Jeb.
All right, we are just getting started tonight. Coming up after the break, we'll get one son's perspective on his father's presidential prospects, and we're also going to uncover the entertainers, from music to movies.
Liar! Shut up, witch. I'm not a witch. I'm your wife.